few weeks ago I recorded a video and then I realised how bad my phone was. So I've got a new phone and so that means hopefully it can be a bit clearer and the video can be a bit easier for everyone to watch. What I was talking about was the embodiment of the good news. There's a lot of talk at the moment about quiet revival and the idea that Generation Z in particular are becoming more interested in faith, particularly, interestingly, the Catholic faith, which tells me a lot. It tells me that actually they're not necessarily looking for what most churches project they think they're looking for. So a lot of churches think the best thing to do is produce really good music or a fantastic cool speaker or really cool kind of like vibe with like purple lighting and stuff like that. But actually the reality is there's something about the Catholic faith which particularly emphasises mystery and liturgy that maybe we can learn from. But one of the key things that I think is going to make a huge difference is embodiment. What do I mean by that? Embodying the faith. And I genuinely believe that if there was a movement of the Spirit of God that caught the church, and that rather than the church being found in middle-class suburban ghettos, there was a movement whereby vast quantities of Christians sold up from their houses, moved into the inner city, took jobs in deprived areas, served in deprived areas, and went to churches that absolutely do not meet their style of worship, then suddenly people will start to ask questions. Because at the moment, if someone becomes a Christian and nothing changes apart from what they do on a Sunday morning and maybe on a Wednesday evening, then what is it? What is there to offer? What is different about Christianity? What makes Christianity different? What does following Christ truly mean if it's just an hour and a half on a Sunday morning and a Wednesday evening house group? And I think it has to be more than that. I think if there was a movement, the true movement of the Spirit of God, and people left the ghettos, the middle class, comfortable ghettos, and went into places of urban deprivation, marginalisation, poverty, then I think that would start to pose questions. This evening I'm about to go on a soup run. I do it once a month. What's interesting to me is, although it's a church-run soup run, the volunteer team will actually be from a local business or a family, or in this case today, it's going to be a group of people from a nearby village. It's run by the church, but there aren't Christians on the soup run, apart from me and a few others. But basically, it is not an embodied, gospel-driven, kingdom-driven event. Because actually, the people doing it are just people who have no faith, but just want to get involved and get stuck in. And I wonder why. That makes me ask big questions. Why aren't Christians desperate to be serving on soup runs, desperate to be involved in homeless hostels, desperate to get involved in the urban inner city churches? Why are churches in suburban areas full to the brim, apparently, and yet churches in the urban, churches in the rural, churches in some of the seaside areas remain small and often struggling. They're often struggling financially, very close to closure. So if I genuinely believe there's going to be a revival, there's going to be a movement of the Spirit of God, then the sign I am looking for is Christians selling their homes, quitting their churches, resigning their jobs, moving into areas that they wouldn't have lived in normally, going to churches that they wouldn't normally touch, and taking jobs which is downward mobile rather than upward mobile, rather than getting a promotion, getting a demotion. Bit of a challenging one, this one. But anyway, Hopefully this helps somebody. God bless, have a great week, and maybe I'll do one of these again another time.